Hi, and welcome to this interview. We're here with Sassafrass Moore from POPIN, which is part of the Family Network on Disabilities program. And she is a parent trainer, and we'll learn more about what all that means here in a moment. But to get us started, Sassafrass, first of all, can you just tell us, a little bit about you, where you're from, where you live now, and then maybe as a little extra spice, what's one of your favorite places to visit?
Oh, okay. I live in Tallahassee, Florida, and I did actually leave, but it's kind of a black hole here, so you just get sucked right back in. So I am back in Tallahassee, Florida, and but I love it. And I used to spend a lot of time in Miami. That's one of the places I really love. But my heart is in New Orleans, and nobody understands it. I feel like I was just like I should be there. I went and built houses and after Hurricane Katrina for a couple of years, and I don't know. I love New Orleans. That's where my soul is.
I can relate to being sucked back to Tallahassee. I was here for about 16 years and left and then came back. I was only gone for like 2 or 3 months though, and I'm back. So it
I've
is
seen
that
it
kind of place.
so many times.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. It's a great place. It's a great place to be. Um, so would you consider yourself an early bird or a night owl?
Night owl.
Night owl.
Absolutely. Night
Okay.
owl.
All right. I can relate. I've tried the early bird thing. It's not for me.
Painful. I could do it, but it's painful. Mm.
Yeah. And the last thing before we start talking more about Poppin and FND, can you tell us a little bit about your background and how you got into the position you're in now?
Absolutely. I have two girls, and one of them has dyslexia, and so she had some academic issues. She struggled a little bit with reading and with numbers. And I had another daughter who is on the autism spectrum, and she required a lot, to be able to educate her and keep her language up and all of that. And so I started running a behavioral clinic because they were giving her free behavioral therapy. And I started volunteering, and I volunteered so much they made a position for me.
Oh, cool.
and, then, and then when that ended up closing, I ended up teaching adults with disabilities for about 10 years in an arts program. And I created their adult basic education program. And I started teaching people that had physical disabilities to read. I mean 50, 60-year-olds that used to be deemed uneducable. And then back then we used to say that they, due to brain plasticity, excuse me, that you wouldn't be able to do it. But you could. And so then I went back and I thought about, what if we did this though, when your brain development is at the height of it, and we have so much information about these different disabilities coming in than we used to. So I went back and got my teaching degrees in ESE and regular ed. And then COVID came and I was like, eep. So I landed with the Family Network on Disabilities, which is coming full circle because at the first place I started, we created an advocacy program there. So it's always just about, helping people with disabilities in whatever capacity the universe has pointed me to.
Yeah, wow. I mean, that's a pretty impressive background. You've obviously been a strong advocate for a long time and very dedicated to the mission. So speaking of the mission, can you kind of share what the mission is? And I guess before we get into that, can you explain how Poppin and FND, the Family Network on Disabilities, how are those related?
Yes, yes. So the FND, the Family Network on Disabilities, we hold the whole statewide contract for the parent teaching and information resource centers for the state of Florida. Every state has at least one. Sometimes it's broken up between different agencies within a state, but FND has the whole state contract for Florida. So POPIN is parents offering parents information and networking. And we cover just the panhandle. So we go from Escambia to Duval, and then just like a smidge down to Broward. And we kind of separate it geographically because they're such different regions, because then we have the parent education network and then the parent support network, and they're covering the east and west sides of the state going down. Honestly, Hillsborough is a very different district than Franklin or Bay or even Leon, which is one of the bigger ones, you know. And so it's just easier to have, you know, them compartmentalized, but it's still the same organization though.
Okay, so FND is the statewide agency, and then
Mhm.
POPIN is the kind of regional part of that for the Panhandle area. Okay,
Right. We just break it up into 3 different programs, but it's all Family Network on Disabilities. And we
got it.
even have a sister program that's the Family Star, and that's the acronym for Support, Training, Assistance, and Resources. And they are the Health to Health Family Information Network for the state of Florida, but they cover the entire state. So they
Okay,
deal with health related needs, and we are more disability and emotional.
got it, got it. So, you know, you probably touched on a little bit now, but you know, can you clarify the specific mission of FND and POPIN?
Absolutely. Yes. So, what we do as the Parent Training and Information Resource Center is that whenever you are coming into an IEP meeting, and if you're not understanding the language, if you're not understanding, you know, what's happening, we can happily send you resources on that. We have webinars, we have one pagers, and then whoever you are in the state, I have 14 counties in the Panhandle. So I would be the person training you if you're in the Panhandle. You know, I like to send information out, and then you get a chance to write your questions and your notes and refer back. And so you're actively being taught these processes. We teach, you know, procedural safeguards, knowing what your rights and your responsibilities are, knowing what the district responsibilities are. We happily educate parents about anything that's related to the Individuals with Disabilities Education Act, which we are actually funded by through the Office of Special Education Programs. So we're that check and balance, because parents walk into these IEP meetings and they don't get any kind of separate education as to what's happening. A lot of parents don't even realize it's a legally binding document. It's not just a parent-teacher conference. And it's backed by a federal law, and it's kind of a big deal, but a lot of parents don't know these processes. So, you know, if you're stuck or if you're having an issue or you're going into these meetings and you're just clueless, you know, you can call FND and we'll be happy to help you, you know, learn whatever you need to learn, find information on whatever you're having an issue with. And we're also trying to start plugging into different agencies. So kids with disabilities in the state of Florida usually get identified by a child find, which is Fiddlers, and that's a product of the FDOE, or they get found by Early Steps. But then they have a family coordinator then. And so when they go to the IEP, they don't have anybody to explain it to them. They're just supposed to know all that. So I'm trying to plug us in. And so for my 14 counties, but anywhere in the state of Florida, you know, you can call FND, and when you're in that transition and say, what's supposed to be happening now? What is this IEP? Can you help me figure out what's going on even before you hit that first meeting?
So you serve mainly parents of children with disabilities. Is that correct?
Yes, but we will happily work with anybody. If you're a caregiver, if you're a provider, even if you're like a teacher and you're looking for resources. So we'll work with anybody.
Okay. Okay. So is there a qualification process for them to
Nope,
work with you? No?
nope. And we do not, I mean, we do keep certain data, you know, for our grant records, of course, but we don't, I mean, we ask what the disability is, because usually, you know, that's really direct how we're going to help direct, you know, and get an idea of what you're needing. But beyond that, no. Mm-mm.
So what's something that you think everybody should know related to what you do?
Um, this is the biggest thing. Thank you for asking that one. Um, it- we're out here because there's a lot of people that say that they're advocates, but there's no certification process. There's no educational requirements. There's nothing. There's nothing to prove that that person is going to be an advocate. So be really careful about that, because you have FND and we provide all of our resources. There is absolutely no charge. And you can use our webinars, you can use our one-pagers, you can have direct consultations back and forth with somebody who is trained in these things and wants to give you all of that vetted information for free. And another great thing about us is that everybody at FND, we're all parents first and foremost. So, I'm a former educator, so I was a good person to plug in as a parent trainer, because I've sat at every side of the table. I've written IEPs. I've been the frustrated and scared mom at the IEP table. And I've also been the advocate working behind the scenes. So, but yeah, when you call us, you're getting vetted information, and you're getting somebody that's walking you through the process so you can learn to do what we do and what we know, but that we're here. And when you call us, you're getting another parent, and we've all felt that way at some time. And I think that's like one of our biggest, strengths. So just, I want everybody to know we're here, and we are so happy to help you.
So just to add on to that, earlier, right before we started the interview, you had mentioned not only was everybody on the team a parent, but specifically a parent of a child with a disability. So you can really relate to the overall process more deeply.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes. And it's so funny because ESC can end up being this small little world, where you're just, and so when I say a parent, it's funny because most people just know what I'm saying, but thank you for clarifying that, because I didn't even think or realize I did that. But yeah, we're all parents with varying exceptionalities. I mean, we have, my daughter's on the spectrum. I have people, we have people who have children with cerebral palsy, Down syndrome, ADHD, you name it. But yeah, we've all had to learn these processes, and we've all been frustrated. We've all been stuck. So thank you for clarifying that for me. I appreciate it.
So what's maybe one of the most important lessons you've learned in the work that you're doing? I know that's a big one.
Ooh, um, the most hands down single important thing I've ever learned is to learn all that you can for yourself. No one can ever be a better advocate for your child than you. And, we help support you. We will give you, all of the information that you need, and we will tell you the correct channels, oh, you got frustrated because you're going to the principal. Well, we can be like, well, hey, actually we can go to the ESE district office. Let's look at this a different way, but you have to be that advocate. And that's the biggest thing I would say, that learn what you need to learn and get in there and speak, and don't be afraid to talk in these meetings, because the way that it works usually is they oh, we have this plan that we've made for your child. Okay, we're going to explain it to you, now sign. But it doesn't have to be like that. The parents are allowed to say, well, I think this works at home. I think this doesn't work at home. Well, they're seeing these therapists and they're doing this and they're getting these results. Don't be afraid to speak, because you are your child's parent. You see them in all these different environments and different exchanges, and it's very valuable information. So learn what you can and speak up.
So you mentioned earlier, COVID 2020 changed a lot of things. What are some of the things that you've seen, not necessarily just related to COVID, but in recent years that have changed in the work that you do and the environments that you're working in?
That's a really great question. Thank you for asking that. You were good, Kevin. Oh my goodness. So, okay. One thing I would note is that all these IEP meetings and these 504 meetings to make these plans, they have largely switched to virtual, which is great, because that allows for even greater parent participation. In theory, that even parents that just were working and couldn't get away for that time frame, but maybe they could take it, do it during their lunch via Zoom or whatever. But one thing I would say about that, is we're working on trainings now for families to make them aware that nothing changes. when we go from virtual, you still need prior written notice. They need to let you know when they're going to do an evaluation, or if you request one, why they're not going to do one, or if they're going to change the placement, or if they won't change, whatever it is, they still have to give you a paper copy or email you your procedural safeguards. They have to have the meetings on the same schedules. Nothing has changed except that it's virtual. And we want to just, help parents remember that, because sometimes it's easy for just, things to get, put off. I've dealt with some parents that are like, whoa, we were supposed to have a meeting, and then we were supposed to have a meeting. And it doesn't work like that.
Yeah,
Virtual means just that. It's over the computer, but that's the only difference.
yeah, I notice, in business and just everyday kind of running businesses or organizations, things changed very quickly. And, when that kind of transition happens fast, like it had to with in 2020, things get dropped through the cracks out of convenience, or,
Yeah.
just because we're overwhelmed with the change. But now that we're kind of through, the most, hopefully, the biggest part of that, it's good to remember, hey, there are rules and regulations that still are in place that, should be followed. So, every industry was touched during that time. So I'm glad I asked that question too.
Thank you. Yeah, because we get a lot of questions about that. Do we still have to have the IEP meeting once a year? Absolutely. Absolutely. So nothing has changed except for the format. Yes.
So with this one, I'm gonna challenge your imagination a little bit, which I sense you have a great imagination. So this should be fun. If you had 10 times the budget that you have now, what would you do with it, related to Poppin and FND?
I would definitely advertise more so that people knew we're here, because we can't help if you haven't heard of us.
Mhm.
And then we did an interesting training to all have the facilitated IEP training, where we would actually facilitate IEPs that had gone awry at the school and district level. And we did the training because it's great information. But if I had more money, I would definitely have us serving as those facilitators, because it's a great format and it guarantees that it's a brainstorming session and it has all these time. And then it has somebody who's not connected to the parents and not connected to the district, who's kind of running it. And
Mhm.
it's a much more conversational, and I feel like where ideas will be birthed and contributions will be made. So I
Hmm.
would do that.
Sounds great to me.
Yeah.
Yeah, yeah, this day and age, one of the things that changed in 2020 is, with everything being online and virtual, it's much harder to get people's attention and get awareness of what your mission, what you're working on, because everybody's using the same marketing channels, they're saying social media ads and all that. So there's so much information out there now. Sometimes it's hard to cut through. And so hopefully this interview will help people discover you, and then maybe they'll kind of help share the word, because it sounds like you're doing great work with Poppin and FND. Speaking of which, how could people find out more about FND and Poppin? I know you have a website, but are you on specific social media sites? How can they
We
find
are
you?
on everything, Kevin, like everything, everything. So our website is www.fndusa.org. And we have a webinar they're typically about 30, 40 minutes on every concept in ESC you can think of. So if you were in a meeting and you heard them talking about LRE, because they use these like acronyms. And so parents don't even really know what least restricted environment entails, which is what it stands for, but you especially don't know because it's an acronym or whatever.
Mhm.
So you can write that down and you can go and look up at a one pager on it or watch a webinar about it. And if you're still not understanding it, of course, you can call us. But we have lots and lots of information. We have social stories on there, which is really cool. Like, it's where you like make these little stories about having experiences for little guys who are really nervous about new things, and can kind of help them understand what might happen beforehand. And you can
Yeah.
even kind of tailor them to the kiddo. So we have a bunch of different ones, like characters doing new things.
Okay.
And you can reach us on Twitter, on YouTube, on Instagram, and of course on Facebook.
Okay. And I'll put the links in the description so they're easy for people to find.
Thank you.
Is there anything else that I didn't ask or that we didn't talk about that you want to share before we wrap up?
Just to know that we're out here, that is the biggest thing. And, it can be very frustrating when you're in that position. At least for me personally, for my daughter's first IEP meeting, I felt very small. I felt like a very small person, which is very strange for me because I'm physically a larger person, and I have a dominant, loud, boisterous personality, but I know I shrank to like this big. And we all do, and it's natural, but we are here and we've all been there too. And so, not only are we going to help you with that situation, but it's really nice to talk to somebody that's kind of felt that way too and found their way out. So that's my only thing I want to share, that we're here and we'd be so happy to help you with that, and make you feel, like the proud tiger mama you are.
Or daddy.
Or a daddy, that's right, or daddies, or what have you. It's yes.
Speaking of which, I did see when I was doing a little research that FND had a Dadvocates program, I believe is something
We
like that.
do. It's awesome. And it's basically a support group, but it's just for dudes. So you guys can do whatever you guys do. I don't know what you guys do. And that's kind of the point. So, I guess they talk about fish, and then, their kids a little bit, or ladies, I don't know, whatever you guys
Yeah.
do. But
So
all of you will be sharing that experience of, because it is different. And you're right, you corrected me. It's so biased to just be like mamas, because there are men and, out here doing it too. But
I know,
and so that's kind of cool that they have a support group just for them.
yeah, I know the social and community aspects very powerful, because at our own program, Miracle Sports, parents will bring their kids out, and sometimes, it's one of the few moments that they can be with other parents because their kids on the field. They can kind of sit back and talk, and it's cool to see parents connecting and overhearing some of those conversations. You can tell it's making a big impact, just sharing ideas, how they navigated different things. So that community aspect is pretty powerful and very useful. So that's great. All right, well, I'll put links in the description so everybody can find you on social media and your website and learn more. And so I appreciate you coming on and sharing your expertise, and hopefully some people will reach out and take advantage of your services.
Thank you so much.